Hello, everybody. How are you guys doing today? Hope everyone's well, good health. And thank you for joining the session and for being on time as well. Okay, so as we have done with the previous sessions, please use the chat in case you have questions about Copilot, what we have seen over the last sessions, all right? And if there are no questions, then I will be showcasing the M365 apps features that we are going to review today, okay? All right, I don't see any questions on the chat, so I'm going to proceed with the content. So, okay. We already talked on Monday about Copilot in general, basically how you have the native features in M365 apps, M365 chat, you have the option of using Graph, and of course, you have the option of using Azure AI services if you want something completely under your control. Yesterday, we explored M365 chat, basically how you can interact with Copilot to draft emails, review documents, summarize files, etc., in a very general manner. But today we are going to review the applications one by one, basically, and we are going to explore the default features that we have inside Copilot, all right? Perfect. So the first one, of course, is going to be Outlook. So I'm going to open Outlook from my app launcher. And for Outlook, we have to be using either Outlook Web or the new Outlook, which is basically Outlook Web, okay? If you're using the classic Outlook client, sorry, in that case, you will not have access to those features, okay? Microsoft plans to release some Copilot integration in the future, but right now the priority is the new Outlook. Sorry, it's the new Outlook. So how does this work? First of all, you can select, for example, an email thread, and you will see the summary by Copilot here at the top, okay? So if I click this summary, this is going to come through the entire conversation, and it's going to give me 4 or 5 lines about the context of the email. So this is very useful, especially when someone tells you, yeah, I forwarded you an email, please take care, and you have no idea what's going on. So here you can see this is a detailed syllabus for a training course, the topics, the course design, the reference materials, etc. And here I have the options for a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Now, you have to be careful because if you close this, and this is something that tends to happen when you're not paying attention, sorry, there is no way to enable that summary by Copilot again. Okay, you have to leave the message and you have to come back. And once you come back, you have the option of launching the summary. So in case you have some people saying, oh, what do? I don't see it anymore. Either go to other email and come back or restart the Outlook application. Besides this feature, we also have options for drafting and for coaching the content of our email, okay? So here, let me copy this into a new email. And once I have my email, I can launch Copilot from the top menu. And I have the option of drafting with Copilot and coaching. First of all, I'm going to coach. So I'll select coaching. And this is going to analyze my email and provide recommendations based on tone, on clarity, how easy it is to understand, etc. But of course, this is not going to be perfect, okay? sometimes you are really angry, you're not being disrespectful, you're just frustrated, and it might try to correct that. So always use your judgment to make sure that whatever Copilot is suggesting actually makes sense. So here you see, for example, that it tells me that the tone could be more engaging. So it has a couple suggestions on basically how can I improve the redaction. I can see another recommendation for the reader sentiment and about clarity because this lacks structure. Now, there is no button here for rewriting. This is not going to modify the email for me, okay? This is only going to give me a couple suggestions, and the only way I have to interact with this is via the regenerate button. So let me regenerate this. And once I do, I will have more insights for which I can give a thumbs up or thumbs down. So let us wait for this to finish. And again, we have basically the same suggestions, basically because the example text we are using is also very basic. But the other option you have, and you can do this with text or without, is using the draft with Copilot. So for example, I can say, provide a welcome set email to the training session covering these topics. I'm putting the same information we had in the previous scenario. And I'm going to generate a draft. So here I'm going to see the output, and I have the option of keeping this, discarding this, regenerating this. So let's see what other answer we have. But maybe I don't think that this is complete. So I will provide this feedback. I'm going to submit it. And this is going to take my suggestion into consideration. See? Now, what are some of the limitations? First, here, sure, I can see the options, right? Including the prompt that was, sorry, the prompt that was used to produce this result. But all I can do, as I was saying previously, is keep it, discard it, or regenerate. So I'm going to keep it. If I, for example, select only this section and click draft with Copilot, this is still going to take the entire content of the email, okay? Including my signature, and that is something which personally I don't like it very much because I have to manually insert my signature later. Sometimes I forget to do that. And when you are regenerating existing content, meaning you already have text on your email, and then you use the draft option, here you have the generation options to change the tone and the length, okay? So let's do something like this. And I'm going to generate this. But as you can see, my options for editing something that's already written are very basic. So you will be replacing your entire message. Therefore, you have to make sure that you are sending the prompt with all your instructions and everything that you need. And now we have this very long email with all of those details. Any questions so far, team? Okay, I'm going to continue. So that's all for Copilot here. Now let me close this window and I'm going to go into Word. For Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, you can use Copilot with the desktop version without issues. All you need to do is basically be on the latest version of Office, and you should have access to all these components. So once you launch Word, for example, you will see the Copilot icon here for drafting. And here you will see minor differences where right now the web version is the version that's receiving the latest updates because they're easier to deploy, okay? For desktop Outlook, desktop Excel, desktop Word, and desktop PowerPoint, there might be some specific scenarios where we don't have feature parity yet, okay? So if something is not working, as a general troubleshooting recommendation, double check if it only fails on the desktop version or if it's failing on the desktop and the web. So for example, here, of course, I can just ask it to generate some content. And I can ask Copilot to generate this. So let's see what I get. Of course, I was using a very simple prompt, so my reply is going to be extremely generic. Okay, so let's wait for this to finish. Now, one thing you can do is, in this case, I'm going to keep it. All right. So if I select Copilot, now from the menu, I will have the options of changing, for example, change the introduction, make it longer. This is not going to work all the time, or it's not going to be giving you perfect results all the time, because even if you're the way you are saying something can be interpreted in a different way, all right? For example, in this case, I'm just getting, generic suggestions. I can, of course, ask it to summarize the content, or I could ask it to write about content or write about based on the content of the document, or asking questions about this document. Some experiments I have run is basically having an FAQ or similar in Word and using Copilot to ask, hey, are there any questions or any topics related to this subject or about this, about that? And as long as we remain under the 20,000 word limitation that Copilot has right now for documents, you are good to go. And right, here's the summary of the document. Another thing that we could do, and now I'm going to insert a page break. I can again invoke the Copilot text box. And here I can say, can generate graphics. And now when you use the forward slash, you have the option of referencing documents, okay? And forward slash. And this could be another document. This could be when you're using business chat, it can be a Word, an Excel, a PowerPoint, multiple documents. And depending on what you're trying to get, you might get good luck or bad luck. All right. So here I'm just going to Select the other document. So I'm telling it again to generate a presentation on ethics and tech support. But now this is going to be using the documents where I have basically the skeleton of this presentation. So while this is something you could have gotten maybe with Bing Chat, for example, the bottom reply, let's see, what do we have? Sorry, guys, my connection dropped for a second. Share my screen. Okay. So in this case, I don't have something so generic with just discussion topics. You know, I have something more grounded because this is understanding the context of the document that I'm referencing. So here we can see that we have more references about, for example, the decision-making frameworks, about commitment, about service to customers and stakeholders, delivering quality and professional services, which are discussion topics that are part of that other document, right? And even if we didn't have content specifically like this in the reference documents, is giving me more grounded examples, okay? I'm not saying that this output is better than this output because I didn't use the exact same prompt on both. But again, you have to make sure that you are trying multiple ways of saying the same thing. Sometimes I have made a mistake, for example, when doing these experiments, feeding an FAQ or something like that, and I'm telling Copilot, hey, do you see any, for example, any issue related to this technology? Is there, I don't know, a documentation link? And Copilot is telling me that no. And it's not that there is no documentation link. It's just that the table or whatever structure I'm using is not making obvious that there is a section specifically dedicated for that link, okay? So I need to format that information better for Copilot to understand it. Or sometimes using different words can give you more, much more broader results. So here we have the output, sorry. And as I was saying, it's something completely different. But the goal behind all of this is that you will always have control over what you're generating. Now, why would you like to reference a document for creating something in Word when you can just go to, Copilot and make the same prompt? Because here you have a character limitation, okay? It's 2,000 characters or 4,000. I'm not remembering the limit right now. So if I have something that's very long, it's going to be hard for me to convey all of this, right? But if you have, let's say, I don't know, maybe you have a job description because you have to interview people for a position. So you can use the job description and tell Copilot, hey, based on this job description, what are the questions that I should be asking the candidates to filter them if they're good or bad, right? Because if my job description is 6 or 7 pages long, of course, it's going to be too much for business chat. Does that make sense? The, in Bing, someone is actually asking for the limitation of words in Bing Copilot. For Bing, it's, I believe, 2,000 characters. No, 4,000. So that's the maximum you can use. But when you're using Copilot with Word, you have 20,000 words. So whatever you're referencing here can be much more detailed. And that's where you start seeing benefits and quick wins regarding what you're doing. Other things you can do here, let me change the topic from the sidebar. In the prompts, you see that you don't have many options. As I was saying, you have the options of creating content. So for example, add a paragraph, to add a paragraph about ISO standards for quality. And this is going to create the content that I need in order to have it inserted in my document. But as we were saying in the previous session, this is, unless I click the change topic, this is not aware of the entire conversation. So if you want to keep iterating on a specific subject, maybe you want to keep asking via business chat, and then come back to Word with a final reply. All of that is part of the experimentation and something you have to do with the product to see what suits you better, okay? Because a lot of people I work with, they enjoy using Copilot in Word for most of what they do. In my case, business chat is the experience I prefer the most. So not everyone is going to work the same, basically. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to move on to the next application. So now I'm going to Excel. And in Excel, we have a bit more limitations, okay? Because the document must always be on the cloud. Sometimes you will have people that, they launch Excel on the desktop and they don't see the Copilot button, or it's not working, or it's disabled, or it's not doing whatever it's supposed to be doing. And for that, you have to make sure that you are opening a document from SharePoint or from OneDrive. Basically, when you open the document, autosave needs to be enabled for that document. If you download a file, open that local file in Excel, and try to use Copilot, you won't be able to. Now, here I have a couple sample tables that I downloaded from the internet. And for Copilot to work in Excel, you need to have a table, okay? So if you have, I don't know, date and sales amount, because we all know people who only do something like this, then they, select styling, etc., and they tell you, yeah, this is a table. This is how I work. And sure, it looks like a table, but if I select Copilot, Copilot is not seeing a table, right? Because the data needs to be structured. So sure, in this case, Copilot is offering me to convert this to a table because it's very obvious, but make sure that whatever data you have is a table. Now, if I select this one, you will see that now I have options. And I have no idea about Excel, okay? Because all my life, I have never needed to produce, in-depth data via Excel. I have always used other tools. So now that I need to produce more reports and more information, I have no idea of how to do things. Therefore, I basically go to Copilot and say, hey, I have this document with this structure, and I don't know, I need to create a column that's calculating ABC. And that's how I get my instructions. Basically, I work on that and do whatever I need to do. But if you are more data oriented, if you're an Excel user, an advanced user, a Power user, or basically someone who knows more than the basics, here you can add formula columns. So, for example, a column that has the average sale per region per month. So this is something that if my boss came to me and told me, hey, please do this, I wouldn't know how to do it. I would have to go to the internet, search, go through videos, and it would be a pain, right? But here I'm making my request, and for this, Copilot in Excel will only work in English at the moment, okay? So in this case, I got one table and then I got an apology message, but this created a pivot table. And right, this table is incomplete because I have the region and the months, but I don't have the sales, which would be the units. Okay, in this case, it's because I think this should go here, right? Yeah, so in this case, the error is because there was no sales amount, there was a unit sold. So here you can see a perfect example of me in my mind thinking that I'm getting whatever I want right, but then when I start troubleshooting and understanding why am I not getting the result I expected, it's because I made a human mistake without double checking that this field is actually unit price. And this is the total price, but there is not a sales amount, like a sales for the day. Any questions so far? Okay. So other things I could do, for example, let me do this. What are the cities who buy the most products and which? So, second. Now, you might be saying, hey, I'm not an Excel person. Where's the use for me, right? Well, let's say you're in charge of producing a delivery. Okay, it can be whatever, your sales number, your service number, your delivery numbers for ABC, who cares? I'm not a person who knows Power BI either, right? But with this, I can at least play with Copilot, right? So, okay, let's add this to a new sheet. And sure, maybe this is not perfect, but if I have this, I can have a conversation with someone who knows Power BI inside my organization, say, hey, you know what? I have no clue about what I'm doing. I have no clue about Excel, about PowerPoint, but I would like to have something like this in Power BI with, whatever else you need, filters, etc. So yeah, of course, someone who knows Excel will tell you, yeah, all you need to do is maybe drag these to this section so you can filter and do whatever you need. But the point is that even if you don't have the technical knowledge to be an expert in Excel, if you understand what you need, how you need it, and if you're able to properly explain what you need, instead of just saying, give me a report, you can get great results. Yeah, Byron is asking if the data is accurate. And yeah, you can trust it because this is only working with the data that's inside the document. That's why the first requirement is that you have a table. Of course, it's not that the data might be incorrect. It's just that what you're sending in the prompt might be interpreted the wrong way, okay? For example, I was running an experiment with a big Excel where I had I had a column that contained URL to some documentations. So I was trying to ask Excel, hey, can you tell me how many of these items have a link to the documentation? And it wasn't able to give me a reply. Why? Because, well, for me, it's easy to understand that, yes, I can maybe filter these and exclude everything that is blank or something like that. That is not something that can be mathematically translated for Copilot, basically in Excel. So it doesn't understand how to answer my prompt. Nonetheless, if you have Copilot or if you activate the trial, please test this out, okay? Especially if you know a lot about data formatting, etc. Because, again, if you're aware of what you're asking, this is going to speed things up. So with this, all you have to do is make sure that you are double checking your results, and whatever is produced, for example, all of these pivot tables, all you need to do is make sure that whatever you are selecting is in the right container, nothing else. Any other questions? Right, if this is going to change based on the data. And yeah, it should, because it's just a pivot table. So let me modify this for Boston now. I think it should be because it's a pivot table, but I'm not sure if I'm modifying. Let me modify the carrots. Now let me refresh it, and here it is. Yeah, I just had to refresh. So as you can see, guys, I'm a very novice Excel user, but of course, if you were using Power BI, you set up your report to auto refresh and all of that. But the thing is that all of this was done in 10 minutes, not in 1 day or in 1 week. And with this, you have to depend less, or basically, you spend less time trying to figure out how to work, and you spend more time actually doing your job. Any other questions so far? Okay, doesn't seem like that. Perfect. So other than that, all your interaction with Copilot in Excel is going to be limited to analytics, okay? And here you have a couple example prompts. For example, adding columns that calculate a specific value, understand the data so you can query the tables you are having. You can also highlight the data or edit the data. So whatever is, out of compliance, your outliers, etc., you can also do that. And you can also ask general questions, right? Like, for example, how can I use Copilot to create a graph of the sales that's updated in real time. I have no idea if this is possible, but let's see what do we have. Right, so basically here I have the explanation. So maybe create a dynamic chart of the sales per week. And let's see if we can have that generated. Right, let me add this. And now I'm going to modify something in the West to see if we can get more. And now I have to refresh it as well. Yeah, now I have to refresh it. Well, someone is asking about data cleaning being part of the actions. And I wouldn't know what to answer to that because at least in my experience, Excel, when you are working with a data set or similar, uh, without Copilot, Excel already will give you suggestions to clean the table. Now, what you could do is basically select your table and ask Copilot, hey, make sure that I don't have empty cells, things like that. So that way, Copilot can highlight whatever it thinks is not working for you. All right, now I'm going to move into PowerPoint. Okay, and again, I'm going to create a presentation. And for this, I think we did this on the first day, where you can launch Copilot from the top menu. And of course, you can ask Copilot in PowerPoint to just create a presentation based on whatever, or create a presentation based on a document, okay? So let's use this ethics in tech support, which is the document we just generated a couple minutes ago. And let's see what do we have. While this is loading, let me here it is. So just like we were saying that in Excel, sometimes people just add some colors and they think that's a template. For PowerPoint, we need the same, okay? Meaning that when you have a document, this document can have a theme with multiple ways of structuring the content, okay? That's completely free, right? You can have one column, two columns with a specific background, typography, colors, etc. So in this case, since I'm using a generic template, whatever output I have is going to be completely randomized, meaning that PowerPoint is going to use whatever PowerPoint thinks is best, okay? So what's something you might face? Hey, I'm using Copilot, but this, while I'm not mad about the content, this has nothing to do with the branding I use. So for me, it's useless because I have to modify everything so it matches my company, right? If that was the scenario, then the organization would need to set up an organizational asset library. And in that library, they would need to set up the templates with the optimizations for Copilot, which are explained here, okay? And also you will see that sometimes there are some known issues that will not give the best results. Of course, this is not perfect, but if you're using the right template, then you will have better results, all right? Now, if your organization doesn't have templates or things like that, it's even simpler because as long as you're properly structuring your Word document or whatever, you will see that the quality of the output is quite good, you know? As of course, in this case, maybe I will need to make this shorter, right? Uh, maybe I will need to add more images, change the colors, those kind of things. But considering that I started only from a Word document is quite some progress. Now here, I could add a slide about, for example, ethical dilemmas. So, in case you're using information from the internet only, then the results will vary a lot. For example, once I tried to have Copilot run a, right, yeah, I had a problem generating that slide. Okay. For example, once I tried to have this create a training for Microsoft 365, and it gave me very outdated material. So in that case, it wasn't very good. So I had to basically create a Word with the updated materials and use that as a source for my PowerPoint presentation. Other than that, you can also ask Copilot to organize the presentation. And it's important that you notice that when the presentation is created, not only you have the text here, but you also have the presenter notes. But this only works when you are creating from scratch based on a Word document, right? If you have, at least right now, if you have a PowerPoint document, you open the document and you tell Copilot, hey, add the presenter notes, that's not going to work. But if you start from a Word document, then it's not only going to create the presentation, but the presenter notes. And here, after I ask Copilot to organize the presentation, now you can see that it grouped the slides, introduction, ethical principles, dilemmas, decision making, etc., and added some slides. So with this, again, if you were in charge of producing a presentation for your company or whatever, especially when someone is asking for a presentation almost for yesterday, this can get you out of a pinch very, very fast. Questions around these, guys? Okay, I'm going to continue. The other options we have are OneNote. So let me go to my OneNote. For this, I will just copy this. So I have my OneNote, I have my notes. In this case, I'm using the same text that we had in the previous scenario. So for this, let me see, because it seems that Copilot is not enabled for OneNote in this tenant yet. Okay, yeah, I'm not going to be able to show you OneNote for this tenant, but don't worry, you have basically the same features. You're able to analyze the page, you're able to rewrite, you're able to summarize, you're able to get the main points. So if you're, for example, going to classes, to college, whatever, maybe you're taking notes very fast, and after that you can ask OneNote to rewrite things. Or maybe you're, for example, in a meeting, and let me see if this is not going to work here because I don't have Copilot enabled. But you could also here, if you were using the voice dictation, you could be. Okay, now it is. If you were using the voice dictation, you could, leave this running, talk, do whatever you're doing, and after you finish, let me stop this here. Of course, this is not going to be perfect. So you could also ask Copilot in OneNote to rewrite whatever you said or get the main topics, the main points, whatever, and use that output for, let's say, sending an email or something like that. So since this is not working here, I'm going to show you whiteboard. So let me come here to whiteboard. And with that, we can finish the session. All right, so here we are in whiteboard. All right. And besides the standard controls for, moving, inking, adding notes, shapes, comments, text, etc., you have the Copilot option. So here you can suggest. So basically, this will create content based on your prompt. You can categorize, which is when you have a lot of information, so it will try to group it or whatever. And you can also summarize the information. So for this, suggest ways I can implement quick wins using Copilot in my organization. We are a tech support company. And once I give that prompt, of course, it's not going to be perfect because it's only a simple prompt, but you will see that I have some suggestions which I can insert, or I can ask for more to be generated, right? So I can insert all of this. And you see that we have multiple nodes. And if I were to add all of these, second, if I were to select everything, now I have the option to categorize. And if I'm categorizing the selected nodes, now all that I had suggested is split into categories, based on the topic that this is covering. So if you're having a brainstorming session, you can have people, add whatever they need to add, contribute to that. And let me see if you can access this. Oh no, I'm not able to share publicly. So But as you can see, we have a very quick output. So in this case, I'm just going to keep it. But of course, well, you could always regenerate this to see if there's any other way of putting the information there. And then you can decide to keep it. Because for me, one of the main drawbacks about using whiteboard is that while it's very useful, it's a pain having to manually, oh, I have to move everything. Because yeah, here it looks pretty because Copilot put everything together. Because otherwise, sure, maybe it's going to look like this. And if you're spending, let's say, 15 minutes moving everything, then suddenly you have to start moving everything else. And that's where you start wasting time. But again, if I just, summarize or categorize or whatever, just so we can check the last feature here, all that content will be added into the canvas, and it's up to us to do the rest of the job. In this case, I have this loop component with the summary, the analysis of this whiteboard. And for me, just taking this component, sharing it on Teams, on email, or whatever, is going to save a lot of time. Having said that, now we are reaching the end of our session. So I wanted to know if you have any other questions, guys, any comments, or anything else that you would like to review in the last minutes we had. For the experiences available, go by the official documentation. So here you have the feature availability with everything that's already available in Copilot. Everything else may or may not be in development, but we don't know if it's going to be, available next week, next month, next year, etc. Copilot in other languages is supported, okay? But everything has to be in the other language. If I want to use Copilot in Spanish, I need my installation, my Windows system, my browser, my user account, everything in that language. If I have multiple languages, that might cause issues with Copilot. Regarding bugs or glitches for Copilot, is mostly when you are asking things that are not capable right now. For example, I cannot tell Copilot, hey, go and set up, I don't know, a meeting with Christian for tomorrow. So yeah, that's not a bug because it's not the product that is failing, but it's something that me as a user might be expecting from the service, okay? And regarding automation, here you have the Power Platform connectors, okay? And for the Power Platform connectors, that basically, we are going to be reviewing some things tomorrow. I have experience with the Power Automate one, okay? For Power Apps and Power BI, I have not used those, mainly because I'm a very novice user in those tools, more than anything, okay? But at least for Power Automate, you can say things like, hey, I don't know, add a step where an email is going to be sent and a Teams message is going to be posted. So it will add all the necessary actions, and all you need to do is sign into those actions and set up the small details, nothing else. Any other questions? Okay, I guess not. So I'll put my email. And no problem, Roger. I'll put my email on the chat as always. If you want to reach out to me, please do. Okay. The session is going to be available as well. So expect that tomorrow. It's going to be published in YouTube, and it's also going to be shared in our team's channels and other conversation spaces. So thanks for everything. And remember, tomorrow we have the last public session about Power Platform. So all those questions, we can review them and explore the applications together. Okay, guys? Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, for your patience, for being available today. I know it's a big effort. So anything you need, just let me know, ping me, and I hope that you start using Copilot and love it as much as I do. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.